Okay, we're on air and we're coming from World. Okay, this is a very long name. Coming from somewhere which we're going to be told about in 1 second. I know it's Toronto. So over to you in Toronto.
I'm Paul Prinsloo from South Africa. We hosted the ICD conference last 2 years ago, and it was good to attend this one, not in the organizing. So I could actually walk in this morning and not feel the anxiety I felt.
Okay, hey, let's just sort this out quickly. Could you just move the microphone, the laptop a little bit closer to you because you're getting a bit distorted?
I was born that way. It's fine. I can snowboard.
That's much better. We can hear you well now. Okay, thank you.
Okay, great. So yesterday we had a pre-conference presentations with a big workshop by Tony Bates, which actually had only standing room available in the room. I think he would have filled the city hall. And I only found standing space at the door. So I attended only the first 20 minutes, and it's vintage Tony Bates. I mean, you could see the people in the room, some of them know him, his work, but they just wanted to hear it again, and he covered the basics, which was great. So two other great sessions. So the formal conference only started today. Panelists helped me. We had 2 females that started the conference. That was great. Laura Tsarnevich from South Africa. That really put power relationships in online environments on the table or on the PC or in the PC. So that was really, really great. I found that very powerful. And then the second one was Asha Kanwa, that just brought the global south perspective in going online and seeing what online can do and what it can't do, and the reality. So that was really awesome for me. And then there were the 3 white males. And yeah, they were all great. I think the field is moving. I'm sort of more on the skeptical side of what technology can do, especially coming from the global south perspective. So that was a panel discussion, and then my presentation this morning was part of a panel discussion on access and innovation. I didn't hear much about innovation. A lot was focused on, my paper dealt with how does online learning either perpetuate or decrease inequality. So that was sort of a counter narrative. And then there were some great examples from Ontario in Canada, specifically females in migrant communities. That was really, really awesome. A presentation from Spain, high energy, and something about transgenic learning. I'm not sure I got that. And and then a final presentation again from Contact North, just showing how they reach out with inter-institutional collaboration to reach marginalized communities in the Ontario context. I hope I do justice to them all. So that's what I experienced so far. Well-run, food is good. That's also important.
Very important.
And I wish the Wi-Fi was as good as food. Sometimes it would just disappear.
To be fair, the 1,400 people, hey? So,
yeah. So, but yeah, overall, wonderful conference so far. Very excited.
Let's just keep going, because I can see there are quite a few people sat at the table. It'd be lovely to meet everybody, know who's there, so then we can just open up the chat.
Bye. I'm hosting a panel discussion in 15 minutes, and I have to go prepare.
Oh, okay.
So it was great to have met you guys, and they will answer all the questions.
Thank you for dropping in.
Yeah, literally. I'm dropping out now.
Okay.
Okay. So hi everyone, my name is Wayne MacKintosh. I work full-time for the OER Foundation, which is a charitable organization that is coordinating the implementation of the OERU, which is a consortium of some 30 institutions around the world focused on building courses based entirely on open educational resources in creating more affordable pathways to higher education. So.
Hi, I'm Tanis Morgan. I'm attending from the Justice Institute of BC, which is in Vancouver, Canada. And this is actually my first time being on this side of a virtual connecting session. I have participated on the other side before, so happy to be here. And all I will say, this is probably the largest conference I've ever been to. It's absolutely massive.
It is indeed massive. Toronto's known for all the big stuff in Canada. I'm David Porter. I'm CEO at eCampus Ontario here in Toronto, and we're a consortium of 45 universities and colleges in Ontario with the open education agenda, getting right down into the roots of what the attributes of a faculty member and instructor in the 21st century should look like, and really rethinking the kinds of experiences we have online and how we could really upskill or upgrade those to be more acceptable to the students who are the targets of much of our work. And at the same time, we're also looking at how we recognize learning that occurs while students are in university and college programs that may not be part of their program, but essential to their employment or further education or just being good. So we're trying to figure out how to make that happen at scale in the province of Ontario right now. So this conference is really great to bring all of the fabulous perspectives that people have to bear, and it's actually a bit overwhelming because there are so many sessions and you can't be at them all. Be connecting.
So my turn. So my name is Anna Galetli, and I teach down in Albuquerque, New Mexico at Central New Mexico Community College. I teach online, face-to-face biology, anatomy, and physiology. This year I'm actually doing a fellowship where I'm not teaching. Instead, I'm supposed to be researching how to improve student usage of their technology. I'm working with some other people on increasing the usage of OERs and what we mean, trying to define what OERs mean for our campus and how that is affecting student costs, access to education, whether it's working or not for them, and that sort of thing. So.
And sorry, I didn't click. I've suddenly gone into clicking the pictures, which is naughty of me because it means that we sometimes forget because I'm listening too hard. So I'm Mandy Honeyman, and I'm your host for today. I'm in my office in Washington State. Currently, I've just finished building a house, which has got absolutely nothing to do with education, except that I learnt a lot. I was working at the Open University in the UK and was teaching and doing some research. So yes, but now I'm getting back and listening to what people are having to say now and seeing a bit about how much the landscape has changed just in the last, particularly 2 years. It's really interesting. So I'm going to go back to the table.
So Mandy,
that's why we're here.
Badge your experience.
Sorry, say that again.
We'd be happy to badge your learning experience.
Oh, thank you.
Badging.
Building house badge.
Your building house badge. Your experience of building house badge.
I really should create my own. I have I am hosting. So yeah, I really.
Yeah. So Anna, we've got some really great free open resources for faculty development that I'd like to point you to.
Okay.
If you go to extend, so the word extend.campusontario.ca, you'll find some really great resources around those attributes of educators that we really need to bring to the fore as they start to use technology more effectively with students for learning. So I would point you to those resources, and they're all open source, and we're just about to package them up so that they're available for a big giant download and so that people can mount them themselves. It's actually a WordPress site right now.
Okay.
But I think you'll find the resources really interesting. They were developed here in Ontario and with our mentor, Alan Levine from Strawberry, Arizona, Cog Dog.
Continuing along the Alan Levine theme here, Alan Levine was also involved in a faculty development project that we did with the University of Guadalajara. Those studios that are all open and Creative Commons licensed as well, on a Alan Levine built WordPress site as well. Those were for 400 faculty to learn about student learning and mobile using mobile devices. And those are at udg.theagoraonline.net. While we're plugging our website.
Got to be plugging our website.
Lots of good work there that can be recycled.
Yeah, they're all free and openly licensed, so I think it's a real invitation to take them and use them.
Ours have also been translated into Spanish in the event that there is a linguistic component.
Yeah, we are actually starting to offer quite a few courses in Spanish now. Not Spanish classes, like our computer classes we're offering, and certain, math classes are being offered in Spanish.
Right.
So Anna, just out of interest, I'd be keen to hear a little bit about some of the sort of definitional tensions and issues that you've been facing. I kind of work in the trenches of OER, and I don't kind of get to see the real world as it stands in, in the academy and colleges. So, what are the kinds of discussions you're having around sort of the OER space?
Well, I think one thing that we're still in the early stages. So there's a lot of learning going on copyright, Creative Commons, just what is involved with an actual OER. Most of the people that I know so the OERs that I've used have all been OpenStack. So they've all been vetted, they've gone through peer review. It's fairly simple to adopt that. But then like our English faculty actually created their own OER, and that was, according to them, and I'm sure it was, I don't even want to think about doing it personally. It sounded like just this really huge learning curve on how to get the permissions, how to put it together. And then you start looking at things like, having the supplemental materials that you would get like with publisher materials. And now OpenStax is actually providing quite a few of those. But if you're creating your own, then you're still looking at, if you want to start sharing it with other faculty, well, what about these supplemental materials that you would normally get, and how much time it's going to take to not just start using the OER as your basic information, but developing the entire curriculum and course around it with testing, assessment, how are you going to present the material in class, activities and handouts, active learning. And so I think a lot of what we're dealing with is just the quantity of development of materials and how to actually implement them. So.
Right, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's a learning curve for all of us. I mean, a part where we work is entirely online, so I guess the challenges that we face are a tad different to the kinds of challenges you're facing on campus, particularly with regards to supplemental materials. The big corporate publishers arrive with their corporate texts, and they've got all these supplemental materials.
Right.
And there's kind of an expectation with faculty members to have all that stuff readily available, right?
When we have things like, if we have a course that doesn't have an instructor 2 days before the class, and we hire a part-time adjunct, and then they've got 2 days to prepare for the class, and then we need them to have enough materials that they can actually do that.
Sure.
And then we also have a rather poor state. So we've got an online, a pretty large online program. I teach most of my classes online. But I actually have a number of students who don't do their online courses at home. They actually come to campus to use our computer labs to do their online course. It's just they have more flexibility on when they do that. So then, one of the things that we're looking at is how do we support our students in terms of getting their own technology and access to Wi-Fi so that they aren't tied to the campus and they can actually work on stuff at home or in other locations, especially as we are we serve a very large population. It's not unusual for us to have 25,000 students, and they're spread out throughout the state. So it's like, how do you do all that and support all those students?
Sure. And then all the challenges around digital redlining that are associated with folk that are coming to campus trying to connect and maybe not getting the whole internet experience, so to speak, for whatever reason.
Yeah, we've got some buildings with amazing Wi-Fi and some buildings without Wi-Fi. Or no, all of them have Wi-Fi. We have some places where it's harder to do, and you're dead zones as you are in certain places on campus. But we've recently done quite a few renovations, so yeah, that's a big issue, is the whole how wired the buildings are.
If they are wired, if the connectivity is working. I mean, I had a presentation on Monday, and the internet was out in the hotel on Sunday evening. That was when I was prepping my stuff. So that was a welcome reminder of some of the challenges.
Yeah.
Let's butt in for a second just to say hello to the people who've joined us and just find out who is with us, if that's okay with everybody. So I'm just going to go from left to right. So Ben, can I come to you and just have you quickly tell us who you are?
Oh, yes, I'm Ben Jansen from the Netherlands. Hi Wayne.
Ja, gaat het goed?
Ja, alles gaat goed. I worked at the Open University of the Netherlands during 14 years. I retired, and now I work as a private consultant in the field of open education. And recently I've done some work with Robert Skuwer on OER in TVET, Technical Vocational Education and Training, for the UNESCO.
Is that with CEDEVOP people, or?
I'm sorry, I didn't get it.
Is that with the CEDEVOP? Is that where that falls under?
No. I did it with the University for Applied Sciences in Eindhoven with Robert Skuwer, and it was for UNESCO UNIVOC. It's a Department for Technical Vocational Education and Training. It was for Borgen Chakroun. It's the education division of UNESCO in Paris.
Very interesting. Yesterday we had a bit of a kind of a celebration, if you will, of the 25 years of the Underton chairs. So a couple of the folk were here, sharing their stories. So that was pretty neat. And so now we're connecting with the work you're doing with Robert. So it's pretty neat.
Thank you. Right.
So that, Colin?
I know Colin.
You need to take
I know Colin.
Hello, Tanis. Hello, Wayne. And I don't think I've met anybody else here before today.
Well, you only see
I can't see David. He was here as well.
Oh, hey, David.
You need a wide.
Yes, this is a bit. There we go. We've got half of David and half of Wayne. So I'm currently at Trinity Western University in Langley, BC. Starting pretty much from scratch a year ago with building our online presence, and as of just the end of last month, September 28th or something, we launched our first fully online course, which is pretty exciting for me. It's been a rather hectic year getting LMSs updated and courses designed, but it's been really rewarding. I'll actually take this time to plug my session this afternoon at 4 o'clock your time. And I'll be talking about the infrastructure that we used to get that designed and launched for students. So it's on the schedule as Ken Monroe is presenting that. I don't in the Aspen room, I think, at 4. So yeah, we're doing some interesting things. We've had some conversations with Wayne, and there are some people who need convincing around here that OERs and OERU would be a great way to go. So we're working on that. It's a slow process, but we're getting there. Thank you for virtually connecting.
I find the word rewarding to describe the implementation of an LMS an interesting choice of words.
Yeah, sorry, that was all of that a slip of the tongue. The design work has been rewarding. In a sense, the LMS transition was rewarding because we were I logged into Moodle, our new Moodle system, on March 22nd of this year, and we're live within 6 months. So it was short and sweet, and as probably painless as it ever has been. So working with BC Campus has been, or BC Net has been really good.
Sorry, Colin, I'm just going to bring in Yin before she...
Hi. Can you hear me?
She reboots just to see if she can get her camera to work. But first, just introduce yourself, Yin.
Hi, can you hear me? Is my...
Yes, you can.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, my camera's not working right now because maybe this morning I had another web conferencing meeting. My name is Yin, and I work at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, somewhere in central Illinois. I'm an instructional designer. I work on our online accountancy program. Yep. And we also combine that with, we use a MOOC platform, the Coursera platform. So we offer what we call a stackable degree program, where our students can do Coursera degree courses and also obtain our degree accountancy program credentials.
So tell me, on the assessment side of the MOOCs, I'm just curious to know, do you recognize the certified thing that you can assess, or do you do your own assessment for the learners that complete the MOOCs?
So for our degree students, they have to complete the MOOC quizzes and obtain a pass and get the certificate. They do machine graded assessments, like mostly machine graded assessments. And then we have what we call the high engagement activities, which are our degree program activities, where they have additional activities and assessments.
Right.
Yep.
Okay, I don't know. Do you want to go and...
Yeah, I want to log on and try and log in.
Okay, so we'll see you back here in a minute.
All right.
Go back to guys. So, just could you do for me? Could you locate this conference again? Because having spent a bit of time doing virtually connecting from OER, from the Open Ed last week, it's feeling to me as though this is like a continuation of that conversation, but I'm sure it isn't. So I'd really like to know how is this? What's different about this conference? Apart from the fact it's huge, and could you also talk about the diversity, not necessarily here in virtually connecting, but when I looked at the presenters list, it looked like it was a really open conference from that respect. With someone like...
Yeah, I would say, it's been 9 years since the last time I went to ICD, actually. And I'd say what's similar is that it does really draw a very global audience, both from the north and the south, I would say. And that's very visible in the types of presentations. And certainly I think, I learned today that this conference was started in Canada 80 years ago, so I didn't realize it had such a long history, but certainly there is a foundational open education, distance education theme running through it. That's for me, it's very pronounced. If I was to compare it to open education, of which I've been for many years as well, except for this year. That at open education, the theme of open is very fresh for a lot of people, and it has a narrower scope, whereas certainly rooted in some very long-standing principles of distance and open education as it was conceived probably at least 80 years ago. So for me, that's really my impression. So it's definitely a different flavor. There's a different sort of concern in the discussions, and it's much broader in scope. But that would be my assessment of it.
So, it's the International Council for Open and Distance Education. So, the foundations, are strongly based on philosophy of open learning, as we would have known it in the British Open University, open as to people, places, and ideas. So that's kind of the foundations where people are coming from. The OER is not a as a thing is not a key theme at the conference. I think just we attempting a hostile takeover bid, as we always do, but because of most of us actually come from distance education backgrounds. So, I mean, my whole professional career has been in open distance learning, and it's a natural, right?
I think there's a strong instructional design culture as a part of ICDE as well. And I think that's voiced a little bit by Tony Bates' presentation and the focus on the kinds of work that he does. So in many senses, it's not, it's an opinion, is up to date in a teacherly sense of how people are actually approaching learning in the classroom in many cases these days. It's very much the, you have to engineer it kind of approach because we're talking about large-scale distance education. So for me, it's a very interesting milieu where instructional design has a huge value here, and I'm not so sure.
Not so sure
that instructional design and engineered environments are really the engaging places that students find these days. I think that students are looking for other kinds of inputs and engagement in their learning. And I think some of the designs that we offer through open and distance learning are still kind of stilted in my view.
And
so, Mandy, sorry to jump in. I'm very conscious of the time, and I know that these guys are going to want to head off to the 1:30 session. So maybe what we can do is we just continue the conversation, but if you want to get going and head off to your 1:30 sessions, that would be great. We really appreciate you coming.
Thanks, Ellen.
Thank you.
You're not compelled to.
Not compelled to. You're welcome to stay. The conversation doesn't end.
Just checking.
I really wanted to just, honestly, I was fascinated by just what you were just saying, David, that why do you think it's stilted, and what do you think the pedagogies, so online, basically, I think what I'm understanding you saying is that online pedagogies, online teaching pedagogies are stilted and a little bit caught and trapped, and I'm wondering if there are any answers to being able to release that, and what you're hearing or what you hope to hear at the conference about it.
Yeah, I think we presented an idea at the conference. One of the things that we're doing is working with students directly in a student experience design lab. So we've recruited 30 students from around the province to work with us to talk about the kinds of engaging designs that might be more meaningful to them in a kind of 21st century environment, where mobile access and response systems and team and collaborative activities play a big part of their lives. How could we better design learning environments collaboratively with students in a kind of co-creation model, as opposed to somehow that this instructional design knows all the answers?
Yeah.
Just to put a little point on it.
Bluntly. Yeah.
Instructional design or former instructional designer, yeah. No, I mean, I think there's some truth to that the distance models sort of, I wonder though if it's because there's still, in an international sense, there's a concern still for the foundational things of access and, the need for open education that's accessible in many senses of the word, and that's still we're still trying to get to that goal, and maybe the instructional design is a secondary concern in that respect when the priority is something else.
I mean, sorry, I don't mean to hog this. So shut me up if you want to. But I did an action research project. You were bringing this back to me really very strongly when I was teaching. I was doing a lot of online tutorials, as we call them in the UK, and so I was looking at how we could better engage students in an online room. I think we'd actually do better if we were using Hangouts personally than using that time we were using Blackboard. Sorry, don't mean to be mean to that Blackboard. It wasn't your fault. But students were really always hesitant, and it was so easy for teachers to just throw up a whole bunch of slides and talk for an hour. And that's
yeah. So our question that we threw to the audience this morning is, like, if the learners are the recipients of all of these instructional developments that we're designing and offering, maybe they should have a voice too in what that looks like.
Just to pick up on my hobby horse a little, I agree with the sentiment. It's good to have these kind of conversations in an online web environment. I'm not so sure Hangouts is the appropriate place, because, I mean, for those of us working in open, there's some interesting tensions that we're having to deal with, and questions we need to be asking ourselves, such as, well, for me, there's a huge disconnect between using proprietary closed technology to pursue open goals. And, you know, this can get into to become a heated debate, but the real issue is an issue of inclusivity, from the perspective of the fact that no learner should be denied the right to access to education for having to purchase a proprietary software license, or having to sacrifice their freedoms of choice either in technology or sacrifice their freedoms in privacy. And so in that respect, I think we in kind of the open world need to think and reflect very, very carefully, you know, around these kinds of challenges, you know, but a design question as well. And there are any good number of, you know, open alternatives we could be using. And so Virtually Connecting wants to have that conversation offline at some another point. I'm happy to have that conversation.
I want to add on to the comment that we should have a more co-constructive kind of learning environment and invite our students to have more agency. When I taught a course like 2 years ago in summer, I mean, I tried to create that kind of a course, but I found that my students were not ready for it, because throughout all their education, they have not been invited to participate. So when you invite them to something so new, I mean, how do we prepare them for this? That, hey, now you have some agency. You can do this. You can co-create your knowledge with me. I found that they were all resisting it. And they were all saying, no, we don't want this kind of teaching. We want the kind where you help us, you know. So, and I had a very compressed short summer course to try and teach them. And I found that half the time I was trying to teach them how to learn a different way, and that sort of was very challenging for me, you know.
Yeah, but we're the architects of that misfortune. I mean, the dominant teaching paradigms have made it so, and so we're actually trying to reskill, upskill, you know, reinvent, and that's the critical ideas, I think, of the day that we need to kind of infect the ICDE audience with, or otherwise we'll just keep churning out the same stuff.
Yeah.
I think there's truth to that. I'm going to do devil's advocate here, though, and there is an efficiency to not being a co-constructor of your knowledge. And if you're a single mother and working 30 hours a week trying to get your education because it's going to get you a better job, you have a very different concern for your education.
Right.
Different. So I think if we want to talk about access, we have to consider the side where there's a luxury of time that some people have and some people don't, but we're all trying to get to the same goal. And I think that we don't really talk about that enough.
Good point.
Excellent.
Yeah.
The other thing, I'm also confession time. I was a sort of learning designer in a previous life as well. I mean, I think one of the saving. I mean, I must be careful how I say this. I think one of the saving graces of education is the fact that teaching is not a prerequisite for learning. And sometimes I think we don't risk enough. I mean, one of the approaches we're trying, at least within the OERU, is trying to rethink about learning on the internet as opposed to learning through a single application, like a learning management system. I mean, one starts, and I mean, if we're thinking about preparing learners for, futures in working in a digital age or whatever it is, I think we have a responsibility in helping our learners navigate those spaces, as opposed to, it's difficult because very often what we do, particularly I spent the majority of my career working in ICTs for development, and sadly what often happens is designing for the lowest common denominator. And I wonder if that is the best solution for the future. And I'm not sure I have the answers, but it's a difficult tension.
Yeah, my experience has been that it's certainly a challenge to move students from that paradigm that where, you know, it's a discussion board and the prof is the prof. And, you know, in launching this new program that we've got through, and it's on built-in WordPress, we did about a month-long orientation to, you know, WordPress and digital skills and things like that, and it was very much treated as a discussion board in the early stages, and they're starting to get out of that feeling and starting to, you know, just connect with each other as people who are, you know, in remote locations. So it's definitely a process, and it's definitely a challenge for faculty as well. You know, the lady that we have teaching the course is really working through some of the issues around assessment in public. You know, what do I tell these students in their blog posts, and am I criticizing their timeliness? You know, questions like that are really part of an old paradigm, or the predominant paradigm. So yeah, I'm thinking through some of these things as well. So it's interesting to hear your experiences.
The summer program that we used with educators this year was really to expose them to teaching with the internet and to use tools in a different way than they might have considered previously with their students. And there was enormous discomfort in the room throughout the 2.5-day session, because we took them right back to almost first steps to say, think about doing this in ways that enable you to be in complete control as an instructor. No instructional designer, what you know about teaching and learning, what you believe works best with students, what research says works best with students. Begin to incorporate some of those things into your designs. And it's only now, like a couple of months after we ran that training program, that we're getting sort of blips and tweets and things like that from that group saying, I think I get it now. Like, at the time, it was enormously uncomfortable for them, but we thought we had to do it and crash through some boundaries.
So I think we might be coming towards wrapping this up, folks. So is there anything anybody from the virtual rooms, virtual offices, wherever you are, want to say before we sign off?
We still love instructional designers.
Of course.
I'm going to go back and be cool. Quit my job and go back to being an ID. I didn't say that.
Now.
All right. Helen, so I know Helen's listening. There she is. Helen, tell us what, because we're sort of waiting to see if Tony was going to turn up, but we think we've messed up on timing or something.
I think that because we're tucked in a back corner, he may not have been able to find us, and he's very, very in demand here. So I totally understand. So if we can wrap up then, if everybody's okay with that.
Yeah, I think so. We've kept you all a long time from the conference. This is absolutely lovely of you. Thank you very much. And
thanks to my partner in crime, Jim, from way up north.
To be here for the first time on this side.
It's nice to meet you all.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to stop. Turn us back to them. So turn us back. Go back. We can wave. Goodbye. Thank you very much, guys. I'm going to stop the broadcast.
Thank you, David.
Bye.